Okay, it's 5:30. If I can have your attention, we'll call the August 2021 City of Rolla Planning and Zoning to order. You should have received the agenda that was posted, put on the city website and distributed. Any proposed changes? If they're not, we'll proceed with the agenda as printed and distributed. First item is to approve the minutes. You also should have also received a copy of the minutes. Any additions or corrections needed? Hearing none, I'll rule those approved as printed and distributed. Next item is report on city council actions. Tom?
At the last meeting, we had an annexation request that was approved by City Council at their August 2nd meeting. We also had a rezoning request on Bridge School Road that also was approved at the August 2nd meeting. And same thing for the minor subdivision for the Aldi's plat.
Any questions for Tom regarding city action, Ken?
You speak up a little bit.
I'll try.
We have no old business. We have two public hearings tonight. The first is a map amendment rezoning from C1 neighborhood business to C2 general retail district. Tom?
Okay. This is, as you said, a request for a rezoning. This is rezoning from the C1 neighborhood commercial district to the C2 general retail district at 101 North Rucker. The property is highlighted on the map, as you can see here. There, it's basically there at the corner of Rucker and Black Street. The property is currently a house, and as I said, the property is zoned C1, which is the neighborhood commercial district, and the request is to go to the C2 general retail district. Notice on the zoning map, the property is highlighted in red. The rest of the block that it's on, except for a little corner that's owned by the city, is already zoned to C2, so this zoning would bring the rest of that block to the same zoning district. It is across the street from other areas that are zoned to C1, however, and it is kind of diagonal from the other block that is also already zoned to C2. So a little bit of a mixture in this area, but this request would make that, at least that entire block, the same zoning. This is the street view of the property looking toward the east on Black Street. As I said, the property currently has a house on it. It is in a kind of commercial area. There's commercial stuff on either side of that property. Golly. And so just to summarize, the comprehensive plan does designate this property as being appropriate for community commercial uses, and that would kind of fit in with the C2. That also would kind of be C3 also. And then it is consistent with the zoning in the vicinity, and there is other businesses and whatnot in the vicinity. The applicant is planning on converting that house into an office or something at some point, and basically they thought that this increased zoning would just kind of open up more possibilities for the property. You'll have some alternatives as you go forward. You can find that the request meets the criteria for approval and then recommend approval to the City Council. You can find that it's not appropriate request for the property and so recommend denial, or if you need more time, you can table to a certain date. Do you have any questions for me before moving on to the public hearing?
Parking's kind of limited on the south side, but on the north side, they have the backyard of the house has quite a bit. Is there any changes on parking from C1 to C2?
No, the parking requirements are the same regardless of the zoning.
Okay. Any other questions, Tom, on this particular? Hearing none, I'll officially open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak to this issue, please come forward, state your name and address for the record. Please try to limit your comments to 3 to 5 minutes. Please try not to repeat anything that's already been stated. Got a lot of patience, but I don't see anybody busting to get up to the mic, so If there's no one that wants to speak to this issue, I'll officially close the public hearing. Discussion or comments from the commissioners? Quiet bunch tonight. I'd entertain a motion then.
I make a motion, we send this to the city council with our approval.
Second. We have a motion and a second to send this to the city council with our approval to change from C1 to C2. Any other questions or comments? Roll call vote, please.
Martin,
Yes.
Lawrence,
Yay.
Bowie,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Stephen Shields,
Yes.
Kreider.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Okay, second item on public hearings is a self-storage map amendment rezoning from R3 multifamily to C3 highway commercial district. Tom?
This request is located at the corner of Farrar Drive and Old St. James Road. The property currently has on it 2 houses and some outbuildings. Property is currently zoned R3, which is the multifamily zoning district. I did look it up. It was zoned a few years ago to the R3 district because it has 2 houses on it. So it would allow for, basically made that a conforming use as opposed to a non-conforming use. The request is to rezone. It was rezoned from the C3 district to the R3 district back then, so the request now is to rezone back to the C3 district, the highway commercial district. That would be the property to the east and south of this property is also zoned C3, so it'd make that whole area have the same zoning. The rest of the area is zoned to manufacturing, and then to the north is outside the city limits, but is more of an industrial type use. The applicant is planning to do a self-storage type facility on this property, so the C3 zoning is needed for that. So this is the street view looking south from Old St. James Road. As I said, it's got 2 houses actually on the property, but you can see 1 house on this picture. So just to summarize, the comprehensive plan does designate this area also as being appropriate for community commercial uses, and the C3 district kind of fits in with that. It is consistent with the zoning and uses in the vicinity. And so as you go forward with this, you'll have some choices of accepting that the request meets the criteria and recommend approval. We can find that it's not appropriate and recommend denial, or if you need more time, table to a certain date. Do you have any questions for me before going to the public hearing?
Any questions for Tom? This property was originally rezoned back to R3 because it was non-conforming. It was being used as a group home for foster kids, and that's why
I've heard that as also part of the history. I'm not, what that wasn't mentioned, I think that was a whole different time when there was a group home.
I remember it happening, so
Yeah.
I think there's some validity. I've got CRS, but not a real bad case. Can't remember stuff for
Yeah.
those of you that wonder what I'm referring to. Yeah, I remember it being zoned back just to be conforming. So.
Yeah.
Any questions for Tom? Hearing none, we'll officially open the public hearing. Same thing applies to the previous public hearing. Please state your name and address for the record. Please come forward to the podium so everybody can hear you. Seeing none, I'll officially close the public hearing. Any other comments or questions from the commissioners? Any other discussion? I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. Florence, so move.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
We get those, Madeline? Okay, we have a motion and a second to send this to city council with our approval to change from R3 multifamily to C3 highway commercial district. Any other questions or comments, discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Kreider,
Yes.
Stephen Shields,
Yes.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Lawrence,
Yay.
Bowie,
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Thank you. We have 2 items of new business.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Good luck with it. You have two items of new business, a minor subdivision to combine two lots located at 1081 East 18th Street. Tom?
Yes, this is a request for a minor subdivision. They're actually just combining the two platted lots together. It's still, we don't really have anything separate for that, so it's still just called a minor subdivision. The property is better known as the Your Community Healthcare Center. They're planning on doing an addition onto the building, and they've already started building on a parking lot that will serve that addition. So one of the things we told them when we were reviewing the parking lot was that a parking lot can't be a standalone use on a lot, and then B, the addition, since it will require additional parking, they need to have that on their property. And so basically this request will combine the two platted lots together and make it one big property to solve those issues. The property is zoned C2, which is the general retail district. As a part of this request, they're also, this is the plat, as I said, is just becoming one lot. As a part of this request, they are also requesting to vacate a utility easement. A utility easement kind of bisects the property. There aren't any utilities in this easement, and so they're requesting that it be removed. So just to summarize, this combines two commercial lots together. It appears to be in compliance with all zoning and subdivision requirements, and as a part of this, an easement will be vacated. That easement is not needed. So you'll have some alternatives. You can find that the plat meets the requirements and recommend approval to the city council. We can find that it does not meet code requirements, state those reasons, and recommend denial. We can find that it could meet the requirements with some conditions and approve of the conditions, or if you need more time, table to a certain date. Do you have any questions before you go into deliberation, I guess?
In your meeting with Rolla Municipal Utilities, did they have any comments on the vacation of the utility easement?
Yeah, they don't have any problem with that.
They have no problem?
Right.
Okay. Figured it was discussed in your,
No.
whatever you call the meeting. It would have been good to do this beforehand, before they started pouring the footings, but I'm glad to see they're correcting.
Yeah. It's kind of a weird deal. A parking lot by itself doesn't require a building permit, so
No.
that's kind of
I understand that.
what happened.
Any other questions for Tom on this? Any discussion? Talkative group tonight. If not, I'd entertain a motion.
I make a motion, we send this to city council with our recommendation of approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Steve Shields. Any other questions or comments or discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Anderson,
Yes.
Lawrence,
Yay.
Bowie,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Stephen Shields,
Yes.
Kreider.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Thank you. Next item under new business is West Side Drive Land Use Study. Review and discussion on proposed plan for city-owned property on West Side Drive.
I
Tom?
didn't change this first slide, but we'll just go right to the second slide. All right, so you'll see in your packet there's a little study in the packet as well. It's got a lot of this information as well. Basically, the short version is that there's a piece of property that the city owns just west of the West Side development, west of the Menards and all that's highlighted on this map in the red. It's on both sides of the West Side Drive, and right now it's kind of two lots. There's the part on the north side of the road and the part on the south side of the road, and so right now, so the question basically, what this study is to try to kind of talk about is what should we do with this property? The city's owned it for quite a few years, and it's come time to maybe think about trying to do something with it. And so this study goes through a couple of options. And the idea is basically to get maybe some input and discussion on recommendation for the city council. We'll be taking a look at this in their the first meeting in September. The entire property, it's already zoned C3, which is the highway commercial zoning district, so it allows for commercial type uses already, and it's surrounded by properties that are zoned. The rest of the west side development is C3, and then but there is that subdivision just south of it that is zoned R1. So whatever happens, it'd be good to be mindful of how that is buffered between the two. There is the Rolla West master plan that was adopted as an element of the comprehensive plan, so it provides some guidance as to what should be happening in this area. However, it was adopted before the west side development was built, and so what's actually adopted is a bit different from what's actually out there now. I'll show you this now. I've brought up the property in question, so you notice that there was intended to be a different location for the West Side Drive and a trail kind of going through on the creek area, and kind of a buffer between the commercial area and that residential area, and then commercial for the bulk of the property is kind of what was envisioned. So we do have some options. I'll go through. There's basically three options. Option number one would be to go through and do some rezoning and do some subdividing. So this option has 1, 2, 3, 4 lots that could be sold off, and then in addition there'd be kind of 3 areas that would be retained by the city. The lots, we'll say 2 and 3, the red ones that would be proposed to be some sort of commercial type development. They could stay as C2 or C3. C3 allows for some things that we might prefer not to happen on the property, so could even rezone it to C2 or something else to allow for some different types of uses. Then lots 1 and 4, they're a little bit less, they don't have much commercial appeal or value. Lot 1 maybe could be something commercial, so it could be rezoned to something commercial, or it could be sold off for some sort of residential use, or even just retained by the city. That'd be some city council to think about, but it could be retained by the city for, maybe someday this whole area needs a new fire station or something like that, so it could just save that for if that becomes necessary. Then lot 4, it could be zoned to anything from R1 to R3, basically a kind of a residential area. It's kind of the area between this is called the Dunaway tract, that's something that somebody else owns, and that residential area to the south, so it'd be some sort of residential. If it was one lot, it could be like an R3 type development and just have kind of apartments on it, or if somebody could make it work, they might be able to put in a road and have a couple lots off of there. And then the areas be retained by the city. Those could be basically kind of a corridor along that creek that goes through. There's 2 creeks, kind of a corridor along those creeks to kind of preserve them, but also there's some really steep hillsides that basically are undevelopable. So those could kind of become a kind of a protected area. So just to summarize, option 1, it creates 2 commercial lots, creates 2 other lots that, it could be residential, one of them could be residential or commercial. It does preserve some areas for future parks and trails. There are some upfront costs, not a whole lot. There's a need for a survey and rezone some properties maybe. There'd be a need to extend the sewer a little ways. So we estimate that to be somewhere between $22,000 to $31,000 that had to be expended up front. But then the value of the property, if it were to be sold after doing all this, should be somewhere between $610,000 and $735,000. Went and worked with a local realtor to kind of come up with some ballpark figures for all this. And I guess I should say that pretty much everything I'm telling you is all kind of ballpark figures. That's kind of I probably should have said that one of the main points of doing this little study is to kind of decide which way we want to go. And then once we sort of decide, then drill down and get into the nitty-gritty. And then if this was done and got some more commercial development out there, there would be some increases in sales tax and also property taxes. Right now, since it's owned by the city, it generates no property tax. So anyway, so that's option 1. So then after looking at option 1, and there's been a lot of discussion about this West Side Drive. As I pointed out, it was planned to be in a different location than where it ended up being built, and it wasn't a whole lot of forethought put into where it was built. It sort of was, at the time, that was the path of least resistance. And so did a little bit of study to kind of see what the options are. So this map has got some red blobs. The red blobs are intended to be my best guess at what areas are developable, because there's a lot of areas that are floodplains, some areas that are just steep slopes and just wouldn't be possible to build on. And so the idea is if you're going to build a road, you probably want to allow additional development. So you wouldn't want to build it completely through an area that nobody can build on. So these options kind of show, try to take the terrain and whatnot into account. And basically came up with kind of a northern potential route and kind of a southern potential route. And the southern route would basically involve relocating it across this property that the city owns to the south side of the property. And then from there, we kind of just, like I said, just kind of narrowed it down to a northern route and a southern route to kind of make it a little bit simpler, because these two seem like the best options out of all those different choices. And that shows those. So then this option 2 basically takes that, and well, if we are going to relocate West Side Drive to the south, if that's the best thing, then what could happen to this property? And so I guess I should start from the outset and point out that this is a much more expensive option with upfront costs. However, I believe that there's additional value on the back end as time goes on. So if this was done, moving the road to the south, it would allow for a big contiguous commercial area instead of two commercial properties that are bisected by the road. Allow for a big contiguous commercial area, and it's about on par with the Forum Shopping Center. Something about like that could fit there. So if you imagine that, so something perhaps with a smaller grocery store and strip center, you could almost fit something like a Academy or something like that there if one big building wanted to go there. But maybe not quite something as big as the Menards. But you could fit something pretty big there. A lot of commercial development there. Or as the realtor I spoke with suggested, perhaps instead of going for something big, could carve that into 4 smaller lots and get things like 4 things about the size of a Dollar General or something like that instead of something big. But then so then if that proposes basically 2 commercial lots, and then also that lot on lot 1 that's up in the corner. It could be commercial. It also could be residential. It's just kind of off by itself, so it's hard to say what would be best for it. But it could be either. And then on the south side of the West Side Drive, what this shows is some lots. So this area could be zoned R1 or maybe R2 or R3, but they would have frontage on this road. And so you could have some sort of residential just in that area. And then this also preserves a good amount of space as buffer and the stream area, and still allows for the future trails that could be possible through this area. So just to summarize option 2, it creates up to 4 commercial lots. I had 2 shown on the drawing, but it still would allow for up to 4. It could create somewhere between 2 and 5 other lots. As I said, one of them could be commercial, or they could all be residential. It still preserves areas for future parks and trails. There is some considerable upfront costs, so there is an amount of risk that needs to be considered. There's the surveying still, but there's also a need to relocate the water lines, and I should have put on there, and relocate West Side Drive, which has a considerable cost. So it's somewhere between $620,000 and $665,000 of upfront costs. And then after that's done, however, the property should be worth a little bit more, because the contiguous commercial properties they should allow for more commercial development, and so the value would then go up to somewhere between $800,000 and $950,000. You'll notice when you do the math on that, the profit on that would be a little bit less than option 1. However, that increase in the amount of commercial activity that could occur on the property, it could allow for upwards of the very top tier, upwards of about $400,000 a year in sales taxes. So that's why I say you'll get the money back for the cost of doing the road, but I think you'll also get more sales taxes through the years. And then there's still a third option. Third option is don't do anything, just sell it as it is. Right now, it's basically 2 lots bisected by the road, so you just sell whatever's on the north side of the road and sell whatever's on the south side of the road and just basically list it and sell it. As it is, it's probably worth something around $550,000, give or take. It could be more, it could be less. It could take a little bit longer to sell because you got to have somebody who comes along with either find somebody that's what they want, or somebody who's willing, a developer type person who's willing to come in and make the investments necessary to do these things, like what I was talking about in option 1 and option 2. So basically with that, the idea is basically get some input and discussion from y'all, and as I said, I'll be presenting it to the city council, and ultimately it'll be them who decides what to do with all this. So you have any questions for me or before going into discussion?
We're not being asked to make a recommendation, just discussion.
Pretty much, yeah. If you want to do a vote and you can kind of come to some sort of consensus, you could. But I wouldn't be surprised if everybody's got a different opinion. So it's also would be adequate to just get some discussion.
So Tom, has there been any interest in the area out there that you've heard of?
There is one. That's got kind of spurred finally bringing this forward. Started working on this several months ago. Somebody was wanting to buy a part of the property, and so we thought we'd bring this forward. Or considering, I shouldn't say wanting. They haven't put in an offer or anything like that, but they were asked about it.
Well, my only concern with option 2 is trying to find enough big box or retail people right now that want to go in there. Right now, most of the businesses don't have enough help to keep their doors open as it is, so it would be hard pressed for me to spend a lot of money hoping that we can pull in some businesses that I'm not so sure that we're going to be able to support anyway.
There's some of that. I mean, if we were having this discussion 2 years ago,
Right.
the conversation would have been more along the lines of people want to come to Rolla, but there isn't any space to go. I hope, soon we'll be back to that.
Well, there's serious floodplain issues on the north side of that R1 district. That's all floodplain through there, so it reminds me of a time on the park board, but a lot of the land we got wasn't developable, and all we could do was make a bird sanctuary out of it. A lot of this is similar to that. A lot of it's not developable in my way of seeing it, but I thought there was a proposed trail that was go through there with the west side.
Yeah, so the trail you see on this one on the south end, that kind of more ties in with what's in the west side. They have the sidewalk here, and then it kind of eventually connects up with the other trails that are in there. They don't really go anywhere, but this thing on the south side would kind of extend that at least. Let me go back to this page. You can see, back over here, this one kind of lines up with what is in the west side development and the one I was talking about on the south side of here, and this one is the other one that goes through the property. But you can see the idea is that someday where the creeks come together, they'll all kind of connect someday as this area all develops.
To your knowledge, was there any particular reason why the West Side Drive wasn't originally put where your option 2 was, or was it just cost effective to go where it's at now?
I think the best explanation is it was a bit cheaper to go this route, and the developer of the West Side development was the ones who built that road, and so they did what was best for them.
It appears to work all right, doesn't it? I mean, you can get from Menards over to Sally Road without.
Yeah.
Why do you need another road through there?
Well, that option 2 would remove that section of road and basically relocate it to the south. You'd still be able to go Sally Road, just get back to it. You would this yellow line. Where's my mouse? There it is. This yellow line kind of is where the road could be relocated to.
Any other discussion, questions, comments?
Was there any, I don't know, if you were the king of the world, I mean, does any of you have any preference for which you would choose?
Well, I'd love to see some development out there, but I don't know that I'm really looking at retail box stores. I'd love to see like restaurants or things like that along the highway that people could visit, something like that. So I would lean more toward option one than option two, just because of the cost, for one. But certainly want to do what we can to get as much development out there. The whole idea of building that out there was that was a hopefully starting point of continuing on and getting more businesses to go out there and build. So whatever city council thinks is the best for that. But obviously that's a lot of upfront money, and on just a whim of hoping to bring in some more big box stores, which is taking a long time to get the ones we've gotten here, so.
What are they building on the old storage building that they've cleared, and looks like they've got it ready to start?
Tire store and a steakhouse.
Yeah, tire store and a mystery restaurant.
Okay.
They haven't submitted or formally said that they've actually got somebody for the other lot, but they're definitely looking at restaurants.
Most of those, they want interstate frontage, don't they?
Yeah, that's the thing about restaurants. Restaurants generate a lot of sales tax, so they're good if that's the goal. But they need to be visible, or yeah, and whatnot. So big retail places kind of become a destination. Smaller retail and restaurants, things like that, they've got to kind of be where the people are.
So Tom, how is the west interchange back on the Missouri Department of Highways? Or is that something that's going to come back to be on us as a city entity?
I think, well, if it is going to happen, they'll have to have some sort of partnership between them. I think right now it's still pretty low on the priorities list. When I talk to the public works people, what they say is they'll be lucky to see it in their lifetime. So it probably isn't going to happen anytime soon unless somebody comes along and really wants to go there. Like say we get a extremely large fuel station that needs a place to go, and they're willing to partner up and pay for some of the cost of doing that, then we might be able to get it sooner than later. But if that doesn't happen, it's probably going to be a while.
Do we want to take any action as a commission, or just study it and table it and get back to him, or is there a timeline on this? When are you presenting this to the city council?
I'm planning on presenting at the first meeting in September, so it'd be before your next meeting. If you have any other comments, you could probably just email them to me, and I
Okay.
could try to
That
distill
work?
it.
Everybody send any comments they have to him by email?
Do that.
Would this be a formal change to the master plan?
As of now,
Of an amendment or
no, it wouldn't.
addendum?
If we went with option 2, then I think maybe, especially the thoroughfare plan. I think it'd probably be appropriate to change the thoroughfare plan this time before we're building the road. And whatnot, the options 1 and 3, it's already basically there already. So probably not. And this plan by itself really isn't intended to be a part of the comprehensive plan.
So if we went with option 1, the whole thing would just sit there until you got a person interested.
What we'd do is we'd go ahead and have a surveyor go out and survey out these lots, and maybe do some rezoning. I'm not quite sure about that. Probably, maybe not. And then list them for sale separately. So we wouldn't. We'd actually list them for sale, like in that arrangement.
Because if we do go with option 1, there will be, based on the survey, there will be changes in the zoning.
There could be, the lots Lot 1, we just had to kind of talk about, first, on the Lot 1, we got to decide if we're going to sell it or not. If we aren't going to sell it, it could be rezoned to the GI district, just to get that done. Wouldn't be necessary, but, and then decide if we thought it'd be probably would leave it alone for now, and then see if somebody came along and wanted to do residential, we'd probably rezone it before selling it to them. And same thing probably with that Lot 4. The lots 2 and 3 are already zoned C3, so we'd had to, as I said, C3 allows for some things that probably wouldn't want to happen on the property, so we'd have to maybe talk about that. So I guess I don't know.
Okay, just,
Well, if you had a huge box store wanted to come in, it's not rocket science to change it, rezone it, or resurvey it for that individual, is there?
Yeah, if
And then
if we did
go
option
to-
3,
go to-
and basically they just list
Go
it
to
as it
option
is.
2,
And
you'd automatically go to option 2 then.
yeah, if
and none
if
of
a
that's
developer
rocket
came along and
science, is it?
wanted to do option 2, that would certainly be good as well.
I think right now, option 1 seems to be my preference, I don't
I
know.
agree, unless things change and you would want to, you have somebody really that wants it,
Yeah,
because you could always change it at any point in time.
Yeah,
To go
that's-
from 1 to 2.
all you've got is survey expenses and
Yeah.
everything's still there the way it is, utilities, whatever, and if
Right.
somebody wants it, we can change it pretty easy.
Yeah.
Fulfill your needs, or you need other action from us?
No, I think that'll
work.
do. If that's all.
Anything else on this issue? We have no other business. We have no outstanding committees. The chairperson doesn't have anything to report. The staff, Tom, do you have anything else you want to bring to our attention? No. A lot of action going on in the city of Rolla. Seems to be, anyway. Anybody in the citizens have a comment to make? I think RD's the only one still left, but
Let's hear from RD.
we'll hear from him in the middle of the week. I'll be glad to read his comment. Do want to recommend that everybody that hadn't got the COVID shot, immunization, please get it. Several is up here have lost immediate family members, so do it. It is real and it is dangerous. So without anything else, we're adjourned.